Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back to Reconnected. I'm here with Terry East, who you know as the famous man in the chat, Flickering Waves. Terry, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. Really been looking forward to this.
It's been a long time coming. I'm glad that we can finally make it work. We are here primarily with Terry this week because Terry and I both love music. It is something that we have talked about countless times. There's so much about music that just the Discord, we've all seemed to sort of come together on certain random genres and go deep on them some days. And obviously, film scores for us is a huge part of that. So we're going to be talking about that tonight because it's Record Store Day this weekend, and I don't have any plans, but I have a feeling you're probably already counting down the hours.
Yes, I managed to get a good spot in line for Saturday because the way that Park Ave does it, they do a raffle ahead of time. That's kind of something that happened with 2020 unfolding, and so I have to be over there bright and early Saturday morning. But nice thing about it is we'll have a pretty good access to what they're going to have in stock, which typically with them is pretty much everything.
Good. Yeah, you should be guaranteed some of the bigger titles, which a lot of these, they will sell out, no joke, within 5 or 8 minutes on some of them.
Yeah, there's definitely one that I'll talk about it more when we get to the list, but something that was a previous Record Store Day item that I did miss out on because that particular, I think it was when they were doing the drops instead of just the big April. Yeah. I just didn't do as well and missed out. So yeah, some of them can disappear very quickly.
Yeah. In the chat, we got Josephine. Josephine says, "Happy almost Earth Day," and in honor of Earth Day, what are some of your favorite movies that depict the beauty of nature? My go-to for this is the BBC documentaries. They are a gift to cinema. Every single one that they've ever put out. Sibner is here. What's going on? Let's see. Brian's here live this week. What's going on, Brian? Happy late birthday to Brian. It was his birthday this week. Mitchell, what's going on? Sibner went and saw Renfield and How to Blow Up a Pipeline. I've heard incredible things about How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Honestly, and Renfield, but How to Blow Up a Pipeline is supposed to be amazing. Spaghetti, what's going on? Kiray's here watching from Australia. Oh, there's Tony. Both of them coming in from Australia. What's up? Let's see. What are your thoughts on Blu-rays 4Ks having a Record Store Day type of event? Would that be enticing or make up a lot of FOMO and eBay flipping? I'll let you take that first one.
It would be an interesting idea. I think the sad reality of it is, at least when Record Store Day started, there were enough stores around the country to where that could be something where, you might have to drive, and, even for when I first started going, it would be an hour drive. Now there are places that have since opened up that take part in it that are closer. So, it has helped bring that back, and that's really cool. But unfortunately, the way the physical, when it comes to Blu-rays and 4Ks, there's just not enough stores. Unfortunately, I mean, they do some. I think we all can agree they do some pretty cool exclusives with stores throughout the year, anyways. And I would say that's probably the best we could hope for, unless we have a real resurgence.
Yeah, the only other way, like if you did it online where there was only a 500 of a certain title, maybe, but honestly I don't see how that would be advantageous for the companies anyways, because a lot of the pressings on these, they have to do at least 1,000 for everything, otherwise the printers just simply won't do it.
Right.
So it's tough. Like, I don't know. And that's, I'm kind of against that whole idea by nature anyways of making something super limited and basically making somebody feel like they have to purchase something at a certain time to get it. I'd rather just everybody have access to it.
Yeah, it definitely would be nice. And the thing is, admittedly, like the things that I'm was looking for this year, if I'm being honest, like I've already got one of the things on CD, and it was actually hilarious because I sat there, purchased it, thinking, "Oh, there's no way they're gonna turn this into a record store day release." And literally the next one that came around, it's on the list. So,
what's going on, Antoine? Joe Jack's here and shouts out Microcosm. And then Spaghetti, I love this comment. Randomly bought a record today, not knowing record store day was coming up or that Terry was going to be here. Must be channeling some Terry energy. Eric's here. Hello. Christopher. Hello. Hope the business is going well in Massachusetts. Everybody go check out Legends in Granby, Massachusetts. I will shout that out every time I see your name, Chris. Sulaco88. Hello. Do you buy many Region B Blu-rays? You're region free, aren't you, Terry?
Yes.
Smart man. Yeah, I don't know about you. I do. I get a lot of Region B Blu-rays.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good mix lately. I know the last big drop that I got from Grindhouse is actually now think about it. Let's see. Yeah, because there's 3 other second sight titles. Dinner in America, which I believe that's technically region, at least on the packaging says region B. And same thing with on the Over the Edge. That was a recent pick. Well, not as recent, but so
look
yeah,
shining through with that music. Both of those movies are dedicated to music. Love that.
Yeah, I think that's something that, like, even thinking about my letterbox is like the top 4 that I've had on there, which, you know, people that know me know that one of those is specifically my top movie, and that'll probably never leave the 4. But thinking about those 4s, like all of them, whether it's a soundtrack or a score, they're just they weigh pretty heavy into why I like those movies.
That makes sense. Completely does. So yeah, we both buy quite a few. If I took a snapshot of all recent things, like most of the imprint stuff are labeled region B, even though they're 99% of the time region free. I've probably got 1 or 2 in this box that are region B. Yeah, I get a lot of them. Brian is watching Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder from Hell. Nice choice. Let's see. Simner says his record store sells Blu-rays and 4Ks. Nice.
Yeah, the one that Park Ave that I typically go to the most, they have a small section. The only thing that's disheartening about that is, you know, they're full retail. So it's like, they're even more expensive than, say, like a Grindhouse or an Orbit.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I don't even remember the last time I saw a Blu-ray or a movie at all in a record store that I've been in God, probably 5 years at least. John's at work tonight. Best of luck, John. All that is, man, Brian is here on time, and Spaghetti is too. That's wild. Chris in Granby, Massachusetts, he needs people to come in and trade in some boutique Blu-rays and 4Ks, so stop in. Mitchell watched Zoo Warriors of the Magic Mountain. Nice. That probably that new Shout release. Recommended for those that like Big Trouble in Little China that we talked about a lot last night. Tony just watched Beau's Afraid, and I'm insanely jealous. Yeah, I'm hoping to see Evil Dead Rise this weekend, but Beau's Afraid is just so long. It's so hard to dedicate that much time to it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's in Ohio. There's some drive-in out there this weekend that's going to be doing Evil Dead Rise and the original as a double feature this weekend. So very, very envious of them.
Tony says so far all imprints have been region free. That is pretty dang sweet. I wonder how Australia gets away with it. It seems like them, Imprint and Umbrella, they never seem to get anything requiring them in their contracts to region lock their titles. Pretty advantageous. Let's see. Reggie says that is Chester, I believe, and he changed his name finally. He said he was going to. I'm not region free. Can you recommend an affordable region free player and where to find it? Well, if you're going to go region free, I personally recommend 220 Electronics, and I do have a video on it on the channel. It's it is a wide arena out there, but also it can be tough to kind of wade through. So make sure you're getting the right one, something that you're comfortable with, something that will help future proof you. What region free player are you on? Do you remember offhand?
Let's see. It's a Sony the something X700. I think it's the one that I ended up with. Yeah. It was one of those things that I still have the Oppo Blu-ray player that, but it was just time to go to 4K because I was just like, I don't know when I had an opportunity to make that purchase and I wasn't sure when it was going to happen again. So
that makes sense. Bren is here watching that new Fright Night release from last year. It is a ridiculously good release, that's for sure. Let's see, you got any pickups or recent watches you want to talk about before we do announcements?
Sure. I'll go ahead. There's a friend of mine, Joel, who hopefully probably not watching tonight, but I'm pretty sure he'll check this out at some point. And he recently took part of his garage and turned it into an old style video store.
Nice.
And has posters and banners, and then he's got one section devoted to VHS, and has some DVDs and Blu-rays in one corner, and then in one lonely little box he has a selection of Laserdisc, and he was just sitting there giving me the tour today. Oh, not today. This would have been last Friday. And he was like, "You're a Fred Olen Ray fan, right?" I was like, Yeah, yes, I am. So he went ahead and he found this online with a few other titles, and he went ahead and gave that to me. So yeah. So, and the funny thing is, never had a Laserdisc player, never picked up a Laserdisc. So this is now I can say I actually have, all these years after the format went dead, I have a Laserdisc.
Very nice.
And would have turned out, he reminded me, Fred Olen Ray was actually over at Tampa Bay Screams this past weekend, and he was like, "You go over there and get it autographed." And I was like,
That I would have loved to have seen his reaction to that.
Yeah, maybe next year. He's a pretty regular guest at that convention.
Doesn't he live in Florida?
Yes, he does. Actually, earlier in the year, I'm blanking now on what his relation was to the person, but there's I got a couple books about spook shows, and he actually knows one of them is like the story of the guy who did all these spook shows from back in the day, and he had a limited number of copies of them, and I picked up both of those books direct from Fred Olen Ray. So, I've been looking forward to checking those out, because ever since Something Weird did their Spook Show Spectacular vinyl release, I definitely piqued my interest in the whole idea of spook shows.
Well, most of my pickups I normally hold until the patrons, but this one is so different and off the wall that I figured I'd share it tonight, especially because I think you will especially appreciate this. I've not really been huge into autographs for most of my life. Starting around 2019, I started just casually coming across a couple, and I had a friend that got this autographed himself, so I do know that this is a good, legit autograph, but we were already about to trade some other things, so I was like, "Hey, I mean, what are you looking at on that for value wise?" And he's like, I think you'll like it more than me. You're already giving me a good deal. I'll just throw it in. I was like, for a throw in, this is pretty sweet. So I have always loved An American Werewolf in London. It is just one of the best films of all time, and one of the reasons is because of the breakthrough in makeup that they did in this. The special effects are stupendous, and with that recent Arrow release, they put out this wonderful poster, and now I have an autograph from Rick Baker.
Oh, nice.
On this poster, and I will be framing this very, very soon.
Absolutely.
That was really neat of him, and I really appreciate it. So yes, I got Rick Baker's autograph, Sibner. I'm so stoked to have this, and it will go along with the handful of others that are in here, and I will keep special. The other one besides this that I'm very happy to have is I have a Ghostface mask from Scream that is autographed by Matthew Lillard, and he as a person, on top of the way that he is an incredible actor, he as a person is probably one of the nicest people in this industry that I've ever been able to meet. He is incredibly kind. He's thoughtful. He cares about, like, the biggest, most famous thing about him in the convention circuit over the last handful of years is how he treats people with disabilities, people with special needs, and he's just remarkably kind and selfless. And I'm so stoked to be able to have a mask with his signature on it. All right. Are we ready for some announcements?
I did want to sneak in one more. It's sort of a recent watch that turned into a pickup.
That's right.
I had this sitting on my DVR, had heard plenty of conversation about it. I think most recently on the Pure Cinema podcast. But I went ahead and finally watched Pre-Made's All in a Row. So went ahead and I know Warner Archive is getting more active now, and that's fantastic, but I just had to go ahead and pick up the DVD because as much as I think this is worthy of a blue, I just don't think there's just too many things about this movie that's just going to make it difficult for people to really want to get behind putting it back out.
Well, and they seem to really be focusing on like 37 through 55 lately. So, yeah, we'll see about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a really slow week for announcements. Some of these are really interesting though, so I am stoked that you get to speak about them with me. Let's do it. First up, Third Window Films is giving us a little box set. We are getting Katsuhito Ishii, I believe is how you say his name. This is the individual that gave us Funky Forest and Warped Forest, I believe. And the Adam from Third Window did a little poll on social media a handful of months ago and kind of gave away that he was going to be doing this and said, if I release this, would you want Funky Forest and Warped Forest in the box set with it so you could have everything? Just keep in mind, I'll have to charge like $10 more to do it. Or would you want just everything else to supplement it? And everybody overwhelmingly voted, leave them out. I'll pay less. We've already picked it up from you. So thankfully, he did leave those out. And this looks like a pretty sweet little box set. We got a limited edition 3-disc Digipack Blu-ray with all 6 movies in here. There is a lot of stuff. This is limited to 2,000 copies, by the way, but it's ranging from 1995 all the way up to 2022, which for somebody that has done 7-8 full-length movies, that's a pretty good sized box set for him. We've got some special features. We got some new interviews and audio commentary, video essay, some alternate endings, archival interviews. Not a ton on here, especially considering each of the discs has 2 films, so they don't have a ton of room left, but this looks like a pretty sweet release. Are you into any Third Window Films releases?
I did while I'm still working through it, one of my favorite releases of last year was the Obayashi 80s box set. I was pretty excited about that one just because I wanted something besides House to latch onto. As much as I love that movie, if I watch 10 more films and just get one more like House, would be amazing. So to hear that the guy from Funky Forest is behind this, definitely has, just talking here now, definitely raised my interest in seeking this one out, because checked out a few episodes of the Third Window podcast. Really enjoy what they bring to the table there. And it's one of those things. It's just, here's what I want. Here's the budget I got. We'll meet somewhere in the middle. And hopefully this will be one of the things that gets caught within it.
Third Window is always one of those tough ones for me because it's one person pouring their heart out. And I just want to be like, you deserve my money. Come on. You can take it. What's going on, KB? Spaghetti says, I got that huge Rick Baker coffee table book. I'm so jealous. That thing, I'm so jealous. That thing looks incredible. Josephine, as someone on the spectrum, that makes me happy. You and me both. That's exactly why I brought it up. Next one, let's see. Wellgo USA is giving us Sakura from this year. I know that a lot of people have been talking about this one because it has Donnie Yen in it. It is getting a Blu-ray release. You can pre-order this now. When I posted this, they didn't have any of the features up, but it's Wellgo, and honestly, they're normally not super heavy on the features anyways, so I wouldn't be expecting too much from this. Next one, though, this is one that we can expect a lot from. So this one is going to be multiple posts to cover. There was literally just too much to put in one, so there's a ton of details. Supposedly, we still don't have all of the details, and we're going to find out more in about 8 days from now. They're going to announce everything on this box set next Friday. The 28th of April, we'll be hearing more about this, but you can pre-order this now, and it seems to be selling pretty damn well. And I'm talking about Arrow's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest box set. There are some 4K films in here. There are some Blu-ray films in here. First off, Terry, any history with Bruce Lee?
Limited. I know growing up we had don't know if it was like an official bio. I still have it I meant to bring it in tonight, but with all the other stuff that I was pulling together for this, it was the one thing I did forget. But yeah, Bruce Lee was always a name known in my house pretty much from the day I was born. Had a set of nunchucks floating around here at one point. Might still have them floating around here for all I know. But going forward, though, and that was part of the reason why I did, despite the rumblings of this box set, probably a couple years ago now, it feels like. Is that overestimating?
No, I had somebody confirm this to me off mic last January of 2022 and said, just so you know, there is a 4K Bruce Lee box set coming.
So in spite of such rumblings, because most of my experience with Bruce Lee had been revisiting Enter the Dragon every time it went on a new format, I did decide to go ahead and pick up the Bruce Lee set from Criterion. I haven't taken a hard look at just every little feature, and from what you're saying, we don't even know everything yet. But if there's enough features on the Criterion that might be unique, that might still be enough for me to justify holding on to it, if I'm being honest, especially considering if I get a hold of this, that'll keep me from buying any sort of possible 4K from Criterion and when that comes down the line.
Yeah, Dead Sea Life heard that they're not all 4K. Enter the Dragon is a Blu-ray disc. It is not the 4K disc, and that's because it's being released on its own. And that is a little exclusive like that. It's not getting a new scan like the other films. It is pretty damn great looking, though. I will say, the biggest thing for me, what Sibner says right here, damn them in their exclusive yellow box, which we'll look at in just a moment. But says, I can't drop that amount. I'm hoping for overstock and see if it hits Hamilton book. Bad news there. Generally, Hamilton doesn't get UK Arrow releases. They tend to only get US Arrow releases, and this is only coming in the UK. The date on this one is July 17th, but the hard part to swallow with this one is the price. It is, I believe in US dollars, if you bought it day one, was $177. That is a lot for a box set, no matter what is in it, what's on it, how many 4K films. That's a lot of money. I just thinking about it, I don't think I've spent that much retail for something ever.
I think the closest recently, granted, I ended up getting the big bundle when I did it, but even the Steckler.
Right. Well, a bundle's a little different.
Yeah, but even if you broke that out of it, that was selling by itself for $150 from them. So, right. But yeah. Yeah, this is not the first time that's happened with. Oh boy.
Key Ray says Australian dollars 256 shipped. Yeah, that's crazy. No, Sibner, that's with shipping. 177 shipped from the UK to the US. It's a lot. Yeah. What I was thinking, I'm gonna switch over from my normal view and look at the Arrow website for this one, just so we can get the full details appropriately. So this says brand new 4K restorations of The Big Boss, Fists of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, and Game of Death, and then a brand new 2K restoration of Game of Death 2. 4K UHD presentations in Dolby Vision of The Big Boss, the Mandarin cut, Fist of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, and Game of Death, with the Blu-ray presentation of the Hong Kong cut of Game of Death 2, Bruce Lee, The Man and the Legend, and Bruce Lee, The Legend. So there are a little bit of Blu-ray releases in here, a little bit of 4K, more 4K than Blu-ray, and we're getting cool, new, exciting things. I mean, The Big Boss, the Mandarin cut is one that people have been wanting for a long time. The releases on this, there are multiple alternate cuts on most of the films, including the extended Mandarin cut on that Big Boss release, English export cuts of The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, Japanese cut of The Way of the Dragon, Hong Kong cuts of Game of Death and Game of Death 2, new commentaries by David Desser, Jonathan Clements, Frank Jang and Michael Worth, Brandon Bentley, and Mike Leader. There's a new documentary by Matt Rutledge on the original locations for The Big Boss, new deleted scenes, 2 new documentaries on Lee's fighting and working methods, new interviews with actors, a brand new feature-length video essay by Arrow on Lee's original vision for the Game of Death. Like, there is so much that's going to be in this. And then, of course, it's a nice box set, a 200-page hardbound book featuring new writing by Walter Chaw, Henry Blythe, Andrew Stanton, Dylan Chung, David West, and James Flower. This is a lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot. That's a good call. The Severin All the Haunts by itself may have been around that price.
Yeah.
That could be. KB says first quarter 2024 for the US release. Honestly, that is probably very, very far from the truth. These Asian releases cost a lot more to release in the US. I don't see it coming to the US, actually. I could see them doing individual releases, one at a time, like every few months, maybe. I do not see getting this box set in 4K in the US. That would be exponentially more expensive than the UK for them. I can't even imagine how much that they would charge for some of those.
And I'm kind of wondering when, I mean, I hope they don't, but part of me saying here, like, at what point are they going to get wise and realize that so many Americans are going to be trying to import this in and end up trying to bump the price up for, these UK releases?
Yeah, and not just UK. I mean, everybody is importing stuff. It could be anywhere in the world. And now just start being exorbitantly priced no matter where you go. That would be rough.
Yeah.
Hello, Sister Agatha. We all know who that is. Nice to see you, Erica. All the Haunts went down to $89 on Hamilton book. I'm still hoping that Severin does. When I interviewed David and Andrew last November or whatever, or October, I think it was, but they seemed to hint that there was a volume 2. I sure hope that is coming eventually. Dead Sea Life says, I don't think it will go that low, but I think it'll be around long enough to see it hit 110. And honestly, I would not be surprised if it did, especially with how, I don't want to say too quick, but some of those Shawscope sets hovering around like $60 in the US, that's very low for those. Yeah. That yellow exclusive edition that we just talked about is this gorgeous box. This is only available from the Arrow website. They say full artwork and extras will be revealed on the 28th of April. So, yes, we got a couple more reconnected till we hear about all of this. This box does look glorious, though. And then on top of that, this will be a great companion piece for that upcoming Severin Bruce Lee Bruce Lee box set, They are premiering their documentary on that at Tribeca, and I believe the announcement said June. So this will be pretty damn good to put with that set if you got both. This is a glorious design, though. I wish I had just an extra $200 laying around for this. But then we got some exciting stuff from Criterion. Terry, you like Criterion stuff, don't you?
I do.
So this month, I am so stoked that we got some titles that people have been wanting for a long time. So first up, from 1996, we're getting The Watermelon Woman from Criterion on July 11th. This is getting a 2K digital restoration supervised by the director. We got a new interview with the director, new conversation between the director and Martin Sims, new conversation between Juhas and filmmaker and film scholar Thomas Allen Harris. But the cool thing, 6 early short films by the director as well. This looks like a pretty worthwhile release with everything that's coming with it. It's not always common that we get a commentary on Criterion stuff nowadays, so this is pretty nice.
Yeah, this was, as we were talking just before we went live, this was the movie I was going to try to check out in advance, but didn't. And the big reason is I was watching the extra features on Party Girl and found out the person who was behind the soundtrack for that film worked on the music supervision for this film, and that immediately raised my curiosity for it.
Yep, Terry and music, always hand in hand. Next up, probably the most requested Criterion title for the last 5 years at the very least. July 11th, we are getting After Hours from 1985, but also it is coming on 4K. I don't think I've ever seen a title more requested other than this one for Criterion. This is something that immediately you could hear white men that travel to Barnes & Noble at least 14 times a year just go, ah.
So how soon do we start asking for Bringing Out the Dead?
I mean, I have already been requesting that one for a while, so I'm going to keep staying on that one. KB's all about that life. I know that he's going to have it day one probably.
Yeah, I've lost track. Which month of releases are we looking at here?
These are all July, so they are coming out during the sale.
Excellent.
It is the best part. So this should only be $25 in July. Yeah. This gets, of course, a new 4K restoration approved by the editor with uncompressed mono soundtrack. In the 4K, there's going to be one 4K of the film presented in Dolby Vision and one Blu-ray of the film with special features. There is a new program featuring Scorsese, interviewed by writer Fran Lebowitz, an audio commentary from 2004 with Scorsese, Schoonmaker, director of photography Michael Ballhaus, author and producer Griffin Dunn, and producer Amy Robinson, with additional comments recorded this year, which is an interesting setup. Documentary about the making of the film featuring Griffin Dunn, Robinson, and Schoonmaker. New program on the look of the film featuring the costume designer. Some deleted scenes, trailer, and then, of course, an essay by critic Sheila O'Malley. This is July 11th. Let's see. Spaghetti says After Hours, or I hear a whole lot of There Will Be Blood as runner-up in that category request. Yeah, that's for sure.
That would definitely be a good one if they really wanted to do like a extras filled release of it.
Yeah. Let's see. Erica says everyone has that one movie that everybody loves, but you don't. Hers is After Hours. I get it. It's not even. I mean, KB and I talked about Scorsese. I don't think After Hours was even top 7 or so for each of us.
And it's kind of weird how it's been this often requested title. I mean, it seemed like its cult has grown in recent years, but even from, I don't have that good of a memory of like right when it first came out, even on VHS, but it's just, we all have our favorite filmmakers, and there's these quiet ones that just bury in the filmography that, become a very nice little curiosity. And this one is just that, but because it's Scorsese, it's, elevated that much more.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Let's see. Sibner says it's unique. It's the outlier of all of his work. Obviously, completely agree there. I still wish he did a straight up horror movie. Like Shutter Island is close, but I would love to see him go all in on even like a New York alleyway type of like even Seven type would be very close to what he could do. Dead Sea Life says his is Halloween. I think that's becoming less of a hot take nowadays. Anyways, July 18th, Criterion is going all in on 4K, and we are getting the Renowned Westerns, 5 films by Bud Bedecker, with The Tall T, Decisions at Sundown, Buchanan Rides Alone, Ride Lonesome, and Comanche Station. This is really damn cool. Obviously, that these are coming to 4K. It's not super often that we get these types of films in 4K, let alone these types of films that are about to be 70 years old. This is a really cool set coming from them. I don't love these films personally, but I am impressed that they're willing to go about doing this. We've got 3 4K discs of the films, and they do have Dolby Vision. There's some new introductions on here. There's 3 audio commentaries, some audio conversation, Super 8 home movie versions of Comanche Station, an essay by Tom Gunning. Yeah, a lot in this, but Westerns. I don't think you and I have ever talked about Westerns. How do you feel about Westerns?
the ones that I like, I really like, but as a genre overall, it's definitely one that I have like huge holes in.
Yeah.
And it's not for, my dad, to his credit, definitely tried to, along with science fiction, was 2 genres that he would expose me to a lot growing up. But yeah, Westerns didn't take as well as science fiction did.
Yeah, I watched quite a few when I was younger, and I don't hardly remember any of them nowadays, but I just did not like them at all.
But the thing is, it's definitely because of, I think, the way my viewing habits have evolved over the years, and getting to understand how other filmmakers have been influenced by Westerns. It's definitely a genre that it's definitely worth revisiting, especially if we haven't had a real revival. And so trying to think here, I feel like I'm going to misspeak here, but I don't feel like we've had a big Western revival in a while.
Not in film, at least. I mean, you could watch one of the 17 Taylor Sheridan shows on TV that are Western focused, but there's been a handful of pretty wonderful modern Westerns. I mean, The Proposition is incredible. Gosh, some of the other Taylor Sheridan films you could also count as a Western, but I mean, even there's so many that have been recent too that are borderline Western or thematically feel Western that you could throw into it.
Right.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it would be great for modern tastes almost.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably a too simple of a way of comparing it, but I mean, there was a time that like Westerns were getting cranked out the way superhero movies get cranked out now.
And honestly, even worse.
And I don't think that's going to ever return. So the fact that we have collections like this to go back and see what was done with the genre, it's definitely something to be excited about.
That's true. I am loving all the comments about Scorsese doing horror films. Sibner says he wants to see Scorsese do a Jack the Ripper film. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That would be amazing. He said, imagine if Scorsese did a remake of Massage Parlor Murders. Oh, no. Hopefully it would be a little more exciting. Spaghetti says, Scorsese's Chud. Now that is amazing. Like, I would help fund that right now. Please. Oh, gosh, that would be incredible. Yeah, Bone Tomahawk is another big one, obviously.
Yeah.
Unforgiven, Dances with Wolves, 2 movies that won Best Picture alone 2 years apart. Yeah, the 90s was
the last
a little heavier on it.
Yeah, that felt like the late 80s, early 90s felt like the last big film revival. But
Tombstone,
in the moment,
Young
I just felt like I was forgetting something else.
Yeah. 310 to Yuma remake is really good. Yeah, for sure. True Grit, the remake, is really great.
Yep.
Let's go to the next one, which is another 4K release, and it's Godard's Breathless. I think a lot of people expected this, so this was not really a surprise. But once again, no new art, no new features, just a 4K disc. And again, for getting some of these with a solid release, I'm not against it necessarily. It just hurts when it feels like they're taking the place of other films getting a good release. So, yeah, Godard. Key Ray says, Man with No Name trilogy is a must, of course. But then, this might even be the one that I'm most excited about from this month. July 25th, Criterion on 4K is giving us One False Move from 1992. Incredible cast in this one. It's a Carl Franklin film. We got Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, Cinda Williams, Michael Beach. This one is a really, really great movie. On the release, we have an audio commentary from 99 with Franklin on it. New conversation between Franklin and Billy Bob Thornton. And that's it. Like, there's an essay by author William Boyle, but I feel like they really let up on the extras for this, which really saddened me. For those of you that got the imprint box sets, the Neo Noir After Dark, this is in, oh gosh, Tony, if you're watching, which one is it in? I think it's in the second one. I feel like it is. But yeah, it's in one of them, and it's a great movie. Absolutely great movie. Stoked that it's getting a 4K. Have you seen One False Move?
If I did, it was very early on, and not that it didn't leave enough of an impression for me to remember. But I mean, what was it? Early 90s. So
96,
yeah. So this is definitely one that I will want to give a look to.
Eric says it's in the first Neo Noir set. Thanks, Eric. Oh, Sibner says I thinks it's in the second. It's probably the first. That does sound correct. That is it for Criterion. Kino is giving us The White Dawn soon. This is from 1974. This one, kind of soft on it at first, but then I started reading into it. War and Oates, Timothy Bottoms, Louis Gossett Jr., directed by Philip Kaufman. This looks and sounds great, and it's getting a 4K scan of the OCN. I mean, I'm sure this will be on sale for like $9 a few months after release. This will be a great buy.
That also seems like it would make a. I don't know if I would need that like a full size poster, but something bigger than the Blu-ray box would be nice for that one.
Yeah, something like this. I would hope this would be the slipcover. Next up, we are getting a 3D release from Kino of The Man Who Wasn't There from 1983. 3D Film Archive is doing the 3D restoration on this, and it's got 4K scans of the OCN. Pretty damn great. Steve Guttenberg film, Jeffrey Tambor, not problematic at all. William Forsythe is in this as well, directed by Bruce Malmuth, who did Nighthawks and Hard to Kill. Fun cast. I don't think I've seen this.
I feel like I should have remembered it because even in the early revival of 3D, that was in the 80s, that was something that I have memories of. I had like my dad ended up going to see Space Hunter, and I happened to keep the 3D glasses from that one. So that one was odd that it wasn't the red and blue like we associate with like 50s and 60s 3D. But yeah, I whenever 3D Film Archive, regardless of who they team up with, they put something out. I won't say I get every single one, but it's definitely an announcement that I'm always excited to hear that they're coming up with another title.
Same, and a lot of their 3D releases, like even Joe Jack here says, are any of these 3D films that Kino releases any good? I got to admit, I think most of their 3D releases have been pretty great, actually.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to Dynasty. That was, even with the red and blue, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, and there's been, is it every single release that you can watch with the red and blue, or if you have a 3D player?
I want to say early on, I think they were just 3D exclusive, but I think right around the time of Dynasty and Revenge of the Shogun Women, they ended up going to that
Okay.
to where it was both. So some of the earlier ones, lesser so, but I'd say within the last, let's see, about 4 years or so, you're going to have a way to watch it in 3D, whether you have a TV equipped for it or not.
Yeah, they for a while there, they were doing like one of these every year, and then it seems like they're stepping up a little bit to maybe 2 a year. I still want to know how well these are selling and if people are actually watching them in 3D. If you try with the glasses, they don't look bad at all. It's certainly worth it.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, and as someone who I never projected 3D, but as someone who was a projectionist, it kind of saddens me a little bit. I think some of the bad experiences that people had watching 3D prior to everything going digital was just simply a matter of projectors or projectionists not setting up their projectors properly, or maintaining
that, or if you're one of the unfortunate people who just like mentally can't handle 3D, so you get a headache every time, or it's uncomfortable because you already wear glasses. I mean, there's a handful of things that make it worse, and I get that fully. But if you're comfortable, a lot of these are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Next up, another Kino title. June 20th, we are getting Ronin on 4K. This is from 1998. This was previously released by Arrow, and a lot of people had that release, and then it went out of print kind of suddenly. But oddly, this was available very cheap for a long time. I think I mentioned last week as well. There was an MVD sale where this was on sale with the slipcover, the limited version, for $5, and they didn't sell out during that entire sale. It was $5 for multiple days, and it did very well for them. But yeah, Ronin, I get Ronin. It's decent. I'm not the biggest fan of Ronin. I think that some of the other ones from around this time are much better. I prefer Heat way more than this, but it looks like a pretty great release. I think this has most of the previous bonus features. Looks like a great title. Is it one that I have to have in 4K? I don't know. What do you think about Ronin?
It's one of the De Niro titles that just slipped by me back in the day, and definitely recognize there's some love for it. And maybe this, I don't know if I need to go straight to 4K for one like this, but maybe this gets me back to at least giving it a look.
Well, at least it'll be in print. That's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, this does have a pretty great car chase. Jack and Sibner certainly there to defend the car chase immediately. I put out an interview with Connie, or sorry, I said their name wrong even after I look at it. Put an interview out with Connie this week. I hope people watch that. Connie has not gotten enough love, and they are a wonderful pair of people. So please support them. The Draftsman's Contract. This is a hard title to say. This one is a film that is from 1982, and it's coming to Zeitgeist Films, which is a partner of Kino Lorber. This is getting the BFI restoration on this. This was a 4K restoration, and suddenly it seems like Greenaway is getting a whole lot of love. We got this. We got the Drowning by Numbers that just came from Severin. Kino's putting out some other Greenaways as well. Yeah, I'm just curious where some of the bigger Greenaway titles are. We're pretty quiet on some of them.
Yeah, I think we haven't heard anything yet on Belly of the Architect. I think
I feel like there's a Kino. There's one that's up for pre-order, and that might be a part of it. Let me see.
Because that's the one other than the Cook, the Thief, Wife and Her Lover that I've seen that one, but Belly of the Architect was one that I remember hearing really strong things about back in its time.
So the other one that is up for pre-order that technically hasn't been announced yet is A Zed and Two Knots and The Falls. This one is going to be coming on June 20th as well. We'll probably get the announcement for that tomorrow, of course. Mondo's here. What's going on, Mondo? Will is watching live. Sibner says, I feel like taking a nap by looking at the cover. Oh man. Mondo says we'd love to see more Greenaway titles come to 4K or Blu-ray. He's one word fella. Yes, he is a weird fellow, that's for sure. I need to get that Severin 4K for sure. We got some Warner Archive announcements. In May, we are getting The Boy with Green Hair from 1948. This got a lot of people super excited. This has a classic short subject, a really important person with Dean Stockwell, and the trailer is coming on this one. Then we are also getting The Courtship of Eddie's Father. This one has little Ronnie Howard in it. And special features, classic MGM Tom and Jerry cartoon, Penthouse Mouse, and the original trailer. This one, of course, has Glenn Ford and Shirley Jones in it. Then my most anticipated in May is this one called Hey There, It's Yogi Bear from 1964. This is going to have a 1961 special episode from the Yogi Bear show called Yogi's Birthday Party. And that looks great. And it's also, I believe, his first full-length movie, which I used to love Yogi Bear. Then we're getting King Solomon's Mines from 1950. This is a Deborah Kerr film. This one is going to have a behind-the-scenes featurette called Jungle Safari in HD even for a 1950 film. That's pretty damn great. And then I clicked the wrong thing, but we got one more coming, which is Queen Christina with Greta Garbo. This is from 1933. Nice pre-code title. And we're getting an episode of MGM Parade television series on the career of Greta Garbo at the studio and the original trailer. So, Warner Archive. How are you feeling about Warner Archive lately?
I'm very selective about it. It's nothing against what they're doing. As I said earlier, I'm definitely glad they're getting more active again. Couldn't be more excited about the Looney Tunes release that we're getting also at the end of May. I'm definitely going to make a point of that being a day one pickup, because they've made it perfectly clear that if we're going to see anything more, and we got 3 Blu-ray volumes well, not from Warner Archive, but Warner Brothers proper. We got 3 volumes of Looney Tunes previously. Yeah. I actually had to, because volume 2 was one that mysteriously went out of print, and that was one of the things I picked up early on when I got the region free player, because apparently overseas it's perfectly easy. It's a lot easier to get over there and remarkably cheap, all things considered. So I definitely want to see them get back on that before the elements with those cartoons get away from us.
Yeah, I agree. And the hard part with Warner Archive is it's hard to I don't want to say the word complain, but it's hard to even point out it sucks that we're only getting stuff from the mid 1930s to the late 50s or early 60s, whatever. But the reality is they have the rights to so many important films in film history that I just want them to release 20 titles a month. Not that I can even buy any of them.
Just so that they're out there.
I want people to be happy. And there's so many, the amount of animation that they own the rights to, the amount of massive Hollywood names that they got literally every single film that they were attached to and they released, the amount of titles that they have on DVD that haven't made the way to Blu-ray yet.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many incredible Warner Archive titles that they could release, and we're just getting the same similar feeling things every single month. I don't know. Next up, in the UK, they are getting a 4K of Cocaine Bear. This one I really only wanted to put on here because it's super interesting that the UK is getting some of these genre titles that are modern films coming out immediately on 4K, but we're not getting them in the US, and I don't know why that is. It's rather sad, but it looks like some of these other modern films are going to be following suit. I would not be surprised to see this continuing from Universal, especially. I don't know why. It makes zero sense to me.
I don't know. I can't remember if this was something that I might have read in the Discord. Someone was just, putting an opinion or a theory out. I'll take it one step further. I'm kind of wondering if if this is something that hasn't been made clear to us yet, but I'm wondering if Universal's doing this to like give like Shout/Scream Factory the 4K down the line, and this is just something they're not going to make, put right out there, because obviously right now they want people to go and buy the Universal Blu-ray release that just came out, and not seek out 4K elsewhere. But
I know that would be rough. That's for sure.
I hope not. I mean, I like this movie a little bit more than some. But to those folks, it hasn't stayed with me as well as I thought it would.
Right.
Since seeing it, but it's one that I'll eventually want to have in the collection.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It wasn't a landmark film. I think that there was maybe just a couple too many characters in this movie, and if they just focused on the damn bear a little bit more, it probably would have risen a whole star for me, because it was fun, had a good premise, the acting was pretty well done. It's called Cocaine Bear. I want more bear.
Yeah, it was. I think I was listening to an interview with Elizabeth Banks right around the time of seeing the movie, and she made the comment that that's the one thing that you're bringing up as a criticism is something that she apparently likes to do with her stories, which she likes to have lots of characters in them. So I don't know how that's going to evolve going forward. If studio notes come back to her at some point saying like you could help yourself here with this, but yeah, I'm glad it's out there. If it wasn't for the fact that May's already going to be enough as is, I would possibly consider this, but it's again, like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about tonight, it's just good it's out there.
Well, on the bright side, it is region free, and I bet Orbit will get this in, because they've been getting a lot of even just the regular mainstream titles. So yeah. This comment though is freaking hilarious. Sibner says, "I swear, if Megan 4K is a Scream Factory exclusive with damn Megan lobby cards." $40 picture of Megan doing her dance. Like, yeah, I could see that happening. Sadly.
Well, they could do what they could do one side and then do the flip where it's like her and 4 like different poses of the dance on the other side. There you go.
Either
that'll justify it.
They'll raise the price from $40 lobby cards to $45 and make them holograms. Kino, they are giving us the Mr. Wong collection on June 20th. We'd already had this announced previously, but we didn't know all the extras. So we got some details on this. June 20th, like I said, brand new HD masters from 2K scans of the fine grain elements. We got a new audio commentary for Mr. Wong Detective by Tom Weaver and Larry Blamire. And I think that's it. They're not giving us much of anything else on this. It's a 2-disc set, but it's a whole lot of Boris Karloff, and it's Mr. Wong Detective.
When I saw this announcement, I just flashed back to the 90s, because I remember seeing some of the pictures that we see here, the little posters on the bottom of that in Cult Movies magazine, and it just like that was a whole avenue of cult films back then. So for folks that were excited about them then, they should be really excited about something like this coming along.
I've not seen any of these ones, I don't think. My family was big on the Charlie Chan films, so I've seen quite a few of those, but yeah, never a Mr. Wong movie. Next up, one that has gotten a lot of wonderful reactions to this announcement. Kino and 3D Film Archive, is getting together again, coming on June 27th. Emphasis on the word coming. We are getting Prison Girls in 3D. This is newly restored in 3D by the 3D Film Archive. New audio commentary by HorrorFix.com's James G. Chandler and Ash Hamilton. There's a deleted scene on this, but this is literally an adult film. this is kind of surprising that Kino is putting this out. They even have the tagline, the first real adult film in 3D. Yeah. Cool. It's a little off-brand for them.
I don't think it's either going to be your bag or it's not. There's not really any sort of push that can be made here on this. Perhaps bad word choice. But yeah, that's. I'm not going to lie. I'm curious. With Kino doing this again, 3D Film Archive. Perfect.
Wonderful comedic timing, Joe Jack.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against this coming out. Honestly, I will probably get it eventually. This is super intriguing, and I am into the 3D aspect of it. Nothing against them putting it out. It's just a little off-brand, and for a company that really emphasizes like the older generation of viewers and people purchasing from them and the paper catalog and $9 titles and all of that stuff, it just seems a little odd for them, but that's totally okay. Next up, we had a fun show last night. Give it a watch if you are into that. Okay, so this one, I did want to shout out a couple things real quick, since I'm always terrible at talking about myself a little bit. One, sign up for the Patreon. Hopefully Terry will agree it's a pretty worthwhile thing. Terry's already won some physical media in a drawing. Terry's very active in our Discord. We're wonderful together. But one of the other things I never talk about, merch, and it's the perfect day. It's 420 to highlight this wonderful shirt. I don't even smoke myself, but hey, I figured it was perfect time to make a shirt like that and put it out there. And then on top of that, if you are listening to the show, or if you watch this every week and you're just feeling extra generous, go give a rating and a review on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you would ever listen to podcasts. It helps a lot, and I don't have a whole lot of those, and that would help. So thank you if you already have.
One thing that I know you mentioned in the Discord that I'll go ahead and add in on the merch. Just a little reminder. I think we have until the end of tomorrow. There's the sell on some of the merch. So if you're on the fence about something, definitely go ahead. I have a couple of shirts myself. I can definitely speak for the quality of them. They're really good shirts. So, and a lot of them are very witty, like the one that Ryan is wearing this evening.
And I also just got in another shipment of stickers to put in all of my Patreon packages. So it's definitely worth it. John says the Discord rules. There's so many people in there. I love it. It's such a fun little community. We got some BFI announcements. June 19th in the UK, we are getting I Am Weekender. This is a new documentary from 2023 that is including the original Weekender release from 1992, I believe. Yes. It was a film ahead of its time, both in form and content, and this gets a whole bunch of extra stuff. This seems like it's right up your alley, to be honest. This is following the band Flowered Up. Weekender explores the hedonistic side of club and drug culture in the UK. It's got a whole bunch of promo videos, and it's got some limited edition of 2,000 copies, including the slipcase. We got Super 8 footage that was filmed at a boys' own party in 1989. We get some writing in this book by some journalists. This sounds like a pretty fun release for BFI.
Definitely a obviously not being in the UK, obviously have some distance from it, but reading up on this one a little bit definitely recalls a period of my life where I kind of drifted towards that more because of who I associated with than anything that I might have necessarily directly did, but definitely a study into part of UK culture that definitely would be worth checking out.
Absolutely. Their music scene around then was pretty incredible, I gotta be honest. Next from BFI, we are getting The Driver's Seat with Elizabeth Taylor. This is from 1974. Now, I did want to point out to people, just like I did for Chris from They Live by Film, this is the film that was in the Severin release of the box set that just came out last year. The House of Psychotic Women. This is Identikit, just with the alternate title. So if you already have the box set, you probably don't need this release. I don't think this gets anything singular from that release. Nope, they're all 2022 special features. So yeah, it's just a UK release of that film. Next up, Western Approaches. This is directed by Pat Jackson, and it's one of the best British documentaries of the Second World War. I have never heard of this one. It's got a 2K restoration, archival audio commentary, and a whole bunch of documentary, short film, special features. And it says other extras to be confirmed. They're going to be putting even more in here. This looks pretty great. John is saying Identikit is a great movie. Next up from BFI, these final two, these are books, not films, but we are getting The Cinema of Powell and Pressburger. This is 224 pages and looks like a pretty great release. And then to accompany it, there is another release called The Red Shoes, BFI Film Classics. This one is 112 pages. They are both coming out in October, but you can pre-order them now. And then we got a couple sales still going on right now. So one, Oscilloscope Labs that we've talked about quite a few times on here. They're having a 420 sale. They always do. If you go on there and use the code Oscilloscope, you get 42% off your order. It's quite obvious why they're doing that. And then OCN Distribution, who is the Vinegar Syndrome parent label, they're having a 420 sale, and a whole bunch of the partner labels are on sale for $14.20 right now. It is an incredible deal for some of these. One of them, it's hard to recommend this, but Gunpowder and Sky put out a film called Awaken, and it is what I will still say the best 4K disc I have ever seen, but it's not a great film. It's a wonderful demo disc. I don't watch it for the movie. I put it on because the visuals are incredible. I've used that disc a couple times to show people what it can look like on an OLED and how amazing it can look, but we never just want to sit and watch the whole movie. Sibner says, if you order with a pre-order, do they split orders? Do you have to wait? I believe with BFI and most companies, you do have to wait, unfortunately. Sibner says, wish I could still stack onto my April order, but with shipping, I might as well wait until the halfway sale. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now, that's for sure. But that is it. That's the last thing to talk about. Did you get anything from the Vinegar Syndrome sale today?
Yes.
What'd you pick up?
I definitely picked up Awakened for reasons that will become clear as we continue on here. It's actually sort of in going through these announcements, I feel like there's little clues peppered in as to what we're going to be getting into as we go through our scores here in a bit. So that's kind of like, yeah.
Eric comments, what, you don't watch all 47 people running in slow motion across the frame in Awaken?
But yeah, I picked that up. I picked up the Lee Scratch Perry doc just because was concerned that the limited wasn't going to make it to the next sale, and then I can't remember. It's the one that looks like the VHS cassette, the party one.
Oh,
I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head, but that was the other one that I picked up.
Yeah,
it was getting low.
The Lee Scratch Perry, I don't think that has been out long enough to be on sale next month. It just came out. So to have that for $14.20, that is a great deal.
Yeah, I almost went and got Low High Desert, but that one I feel like is going to probably stick around for a bit.
Yeah, I think people have soured on ETR a little bit, so
yeah,
would not surprise me. As usual, we'll go over next week's release list in case you forgot. Super Cop coming in 4K from 88 Films in the US. Triangle of Sadness 4K from Criterion. Action Mutante or Mutant Action from Severin. This is finally getting a retail release. The Jackie Chan collection. This is volume 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's volume 2. Cheers, the complete series comes out next week. The Man Who Fell to Earth is getting a 4K release from Lionsgate. So far, this is only a steelbook coming to Best Buy, so you may want to keep an eye out for that if you're super into the movie. Suicide's Club, that one's coming from, is that Media Blasters, I think? Either way, finally getting a release. I know that there was some controversy with Sion Sono. Third Window Films had announced that they were going to release that, and now that there's some controversy with the director, I believe they have quietly canceled that. So yeah, that this may be the only release we're getting for a while. Backtrack with Dennis Hopper and Jodie Foster coming from Kino next week. The Shiver of the Vampires in 4K, the Jean Roland film coming from Indicator. I know Will is super excited about that one. The Big Bus coming from Kino next week. Safe in Hell from Warner Archive. Then some other Warner Archives. One Way Passage, The Strawberry Blonde, and the Small Axe set from Steve McQueen coming from Criterion next week. And Two Orphan Vampires. That's the other Roland film coming out next week. That's another 4K release from Indicator. The Assassination Bureau from Arrow. There's so much. Arrow, or not just Arrow, April is huge for releases in the US especially. Lover's Lane from Arrow, Heat from Kino, Terminal Invasion from Kino, Lion is in the Streets from Warner Archive. And then, of course, all of those partner label titles coming out soon as well. Calamity of Snakes from Unearthed. I know a lot of people have been watching that. The Green Hornet from VCI, one of the most prolific labels out there. Three Between the Sheets getting a retail release from Severin. And I think that is the bulk of it. The New Godfathers from Raro. Yep, I think that is it. Anything next week that you have on the way or are already picked up and you're stoked on?
I think there's one or two of the partner label titles that I'll be getting, but I wanted to get and will eventually get Action Mutante, but I ended up seeing Dave the Beast. I started Perdita Durango. I kind of want to revisit those and then get in with that one.
Yeah. Okay. So Terry is here primarily to discuss music. So as we said, it is Record Store Day this weekend. And the first question, anybody in the chat like super into vinyl or super into film scores or soundtracks in general? Hopefully there is at least some, and this isn't too terribly just dry for everybody, but it's physical media. That's the biggest thing, is it's super important to support and keep going the other forms of physical media as well. I try to stay up to date on some of these, but there are so many vinyl releases nowadays that I focus too much on film. I can't stay up on vinyl like I used to at all.
And the thing is, especially for one of the titles that I was thinking about for to pick up on Saturday, some of them, I understand, there's, some of these get imported or some of them come from presses that, can command a heavy premium when it comes to cost of production. But some of these vinyls are just too expensive at times. And, I still, even now, kind of work from the default of CDs. And then if I get, I like having things digitally now. I've definitely evolved on that, but I'd still like, the ideal, and one of the reasons why I'll champion a website like Bandcamp is because they have a way of putting those two things together, where you make that physical purchase, you get a digital, and either it's baked into the cost of it or they're just basically giving it to you.
Yeah, and on top of all that, Bandcamp is also one of the most ethical companies because they very much strive to pay fairly to all of their artists. They even have Bandcamp Fridays. I think that's once a month, where
Yep.
if you purchase on that day, all of the profits go to that band themselves, and that's not insignificant. That is a huge difference compared to some of these other, where like to buy a T-shirt from a band is exactly like streaming their song 50,000 times. So it really matters when you're supporting them the right way. With scores and soundtracks, so I have pretty much been leaning into the streaming method. Unfortunately, a lot of the ones that I've loved throughout the years are not even available on streaming. It's hard to find many of these. I also still have a ton of CDs. I've got a few hundred. I love when some of these releases come with CDs, and I can take the CD and burn the soundtrack to my iTunes and save it in there so that I can always have it with me. It is so worth it. I honestly wish more releases had them. I understand that it can be pricey though, and if it means every single release is $10 more, yeah, I probably don't want it. But
yeah,
on the important ones, it's great. Like The Guest, having the CD soundtrack in there was huge for me. That is an incredible release. I love that film, love that soundtrack. I think that was an absolutely essential one to have the CD in there.
Yeah, it's definitely what I mean. I know we've mentioned it, or it has been mentioned on here in previous reconnecteds. But the one of the great things about Severin, and it's just a little bit of a minor disappointment with certain releases, is the fact that they do strive to put the soundtrack in there on CD. It's it's definitely one of the things that will get my attention when they make a announcement.
Yeah, we've only had like a few from Vinegar Syndrome have it. I think a few of the partner labels have had them. But yeah, Severin doing usually like 8 or 10 a year at least is really nice. Really nice. Yeah, the big selling point of the imprint release of The Haunting of Julia or Full Circle is that it comes with the CD soundtrack, and none of the other releases in the rest of the world. There are 4 releases of that film, and none of them have the soundtrack except for the imprint one. All right. Record Store Day this weekend. Do you want to go into what you have your eyes on, or is that going to encroach on your list that we're going to be talking about?
No, not at all. Actually, unlike it, while this overall is a very is a much stronger list than the past couple of years, more for budgetary reasons than anything else. My picks are very basic, and you just scrolled past, or just scrolling past one of the ones that I had my eye on, and again, nothing bitter about it, but that Ocean's 12 score, it's one of the reasons why I will speak up for Ocean's 12, where like literally no one else will defend it. That may be the best score of the 3, but it's going for $55 on Saturday. And as much as I would love to have it on vinyl, it's one of those. I like the 2 other titles that I want the most are going to would end up basically being the same price. So it's just like, yeah, it's kind of very easy for me to just prioritize to away from that one. Unfortunately, I know Terror Vision has one coming out on Saturday. That would be Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night Part 2. That's a movie, if I'm being honest, I definitely warmed up to more after seeing it on the last drive-in. I didn't remember loving it when I saw it at a younger age, but if I'm being honest, that score didn't immediately jump out at me. So I don't know if I'm glad they're putting it out. It's definitely going to make some fans happy. I'm just not one that's going to be seeking it out on Saturday.
One of the sad things with that release is that they had an exclusive colorway that was going to be going through Mondo, and now that Mondo is dead, TerraVision is just doing another exclusive colorway. So there's so much that has disappeared with Mondo, and I sincerely hope they're able to keep going with some of the other stuff that they are currently allowed to, but we shall see, I guess.
I'm that makes me curious for what was, already there, because, mainly because of shipping more than anything else. There were some titles that I didn't didn't pick up from them that I would like to be able to go back and get, and I'm kind of wondering how difficult that's going to become here.
Right.
Anytime, really.
Yeah, that's it's rough for sure, and especially with like the state of the vinyl industry and how long delays have been for pressings. I guarantee that there are probably already things in planning for like the 2025 record store day. I wouldn't be surprised if Mondo had to just scramble at the last minute with tons of things already in production.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Although one encouraging development this year is that when we did get the list, because the way they do it at the store is they have us look at a menu and basically pick off what we want, and we turn that in, and they'll give us what we want if they have it. And the really cool development this time, where a year and a half ago, the list of titles that were getting bumped was like a dozen or more. This year it was just 3 titles. So that I felt was a huge win.
On top of that, one of the coolest things about Record Store Day over the last couple of years is there's been a whole lot of premieres. Things that are classic, and not just things released in the last few years, but things from like the early 80s that never saw vinyl for some reason, and in 2022 getting its first printing ever. Like that is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it goes, in some cases can go even further back than that. And one of the comments you just posted there, speaking about jazz music, there's I haven't had time yet to explore it, but the jazz titles this year seem to be particularly strong.
I'm a huge fan of jazz. I was in a jazz ensemble in high school. I try to do my best with staying on top of that, but of course owning instruments is very expensive. But jazz is a hell of a lot of fun to play, hell of a lot of fun to listen to, and it's genuinely iconic because of how long it's been around. It's something that there's a jazz museum here in Kansas City, and it is a mind-blowing place to visit. It is such a wonderful, wonderful experience. Sibner says, what did I play in jazz band specifically? I played baritone sax. Oh, look at that. You played alto sax. Yeah. I was the low end in jazz band, of course, being this massive person that I am. And then I played bass clarinet as well. I've played guitar, bass. I've played a little bit of drums, played clarinet. Yeah, I've done as much as I could, basically. But yeah, I love Record Store Day. I love vinyl. I'd much rather listen to vinyl. If it wasn't so damn expensive, and if I still had a working turntable, I would be listening to vinyl far more often. I do still have I say small collection, but I know it's bigger than a lot of people, and I'm very fortunate to have it. I've got probably 75, 90-ish records, something like that. Nothing huge, but the ones that I have left are the ones that matter. Anything else on Record Store Day that you want to highlight? Anything else from the list jump out at you that you want to really show for people?
I will just go ahead and mention real quick, since you were asking earlier what the things I was most having the eye on was on both ends of the exclusive section that you're going through here, and that would be the Tori Amos B-sides, and there at the bottom there. Wilco decided it started out as a bonus CD for a magazine, but basically they took various versions of Yankee Hotel Foxtrot and jigsaw puzzled it together into a new version of the record. It's a mix of alternate takes, live recordings. It's a particularly good experiment with it. It does include a few things that even if you just got the Behemoth set from last year for the 20th anniversary, there are a handful of cuts on there that that are on this because they ended up mainly what they are the for the 20th anniversary, they went and performed some shows where they played it front to back, and they took a few cuts from that and put it on this new mix of it.
Nice, very nice. All right, my friend. You want to get into our list then?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when we first determined what we were going to talk about tonight, it was all based around Record Store Day, and we said, let's just pick five of our favorite, because I know I always get comments. These are not the best. Five of our favorite iconic scores, and I kind of struggled with this. Getting it down to a 5 list is really hard. I've got a couple honorable mentions. You want to go through some of yours first? Because I know you got some.
The honorable mentions.
Yep, let's do that first.
Okay, sure. What I did a little different with the honorable mentions, because as you know, if you're someone who was looking forward to Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2 coming out on vinyl this Saturday, maybe that's a holy grail that's coming off your list. Well, then you start thinking about, well, what about titles to put on there going forward? So with that in mind, I decided to go ahead and pull out some CDs of titles that, as far as I know, don't have vinyl releases. This list kind of drifts a little bit away from pure score. Some of it's a mix of sound, songs and score, but that was the spirit that I went through this particular list. So I'll go ahead and start. A number of Wes Anderson's titles have already gotten vinyl releases. The Darjeeling Limited is a particular favorite of mine if I'm thinking about ones that I have on vinyl. But I want to go ahead and highlight Fantastic Mr. Fox as a pick. And not only just this, and this and 500 Days of Summer, both, I believe, came out in 2009. And in both cases, they put out a physical CD like this of a soundtrack, but then they ended up doing a digital exclusive of what would be a score. So for this one, we do have a score for all this being done, being mixed at Abbey Road Studios, but this expands upon some of the score selections that are on this particular CD, and this is a full disc. Much like the movie itself, this is one that's, for me, always one that comes around for Thanksgiving. Another one here I just realized that is holiday centric, although I can listen to this one pretty much year round, and that would be the soundtrack for Ed Wood from Howard Shore. I know there's probably some other Howard Shore scores that aren't on vinyl yet that people probably would want more, but this is a personal favorite of mine. Even after all these years, I would say this has now locked its place as probably my favorite Tim Burton movie. I don't think there's any chance that's going to get dislodged unless he has a third act that we just don't see coming.
He had a mind-blowing 9 years in a row around then. It was just ridiculously great.
Yeah. And this one, when I picked it, I wanted to highlight some Hal Hartley, as I've been doing a lot in the Discord as of late. And I thought that this was going to be the first of his films where it was just strictly score. But as I took a closer look at it, there are a few songs on there, but even he's a member of, while he also composes the scores for all his music, composes all the scores for his movies, he does, for some of the proper songs on here, he's in those bands as well. So it's still very much connected to him. So I went ahead and wanted to highlight Henry Full. This is, I want to say it's like his fifth or sixth feature length. But thinking back on 97 and how this somehow felt different when this was coming through Sundance, like he was going to go next level. He was going to have that, that, hey, go to Tarantino here, but it's the first name that comes to mind. He's going to have that breakout that was overdue. And he'd already done pretty well at Sundance even before this particular movie. But, it appealed to his crowd, and he went overseas and continued to make movies. And this, for a lot of people, would probably be the one, if people were being introduced to him without really kind of introducing him as a director, like just say, here's a movie that just happens to be directed by him. This would probably be the one that
absolutely
a lot of people would introduce him to. And then finally, for circumstances that I still don't think I fully understand, and I think it's by his personal design. This is an artist who hasn't been as prolific as I would have liked, but when I think of modern film scores, he's one of my favorites, and that is John Bryan. And a lot of his stuff has come out on vinyl, has come out even through previous Record Store Days, but I wanted to highlight I Heart Huckabees. This
Good
one
movie
does have some great songs on it, but it's anchored by a score that, as I was revisiting it today, made me think back of, it's the soundtrack of like old department stores, and like we had a pizza place the next town over back in the early 80s that had like a piano, like a Wurlitzer type piano, but the way it was built into the building. So it's like all the extra parts to it were in these other rooms, and person would just go and sit there and control it from this main station. So it has a weird retro quality to it. And actually, I was trying to remember, I think there's a special feature on, maybe it's in the Eternal Sunshine disc. It's with John Bryan, and it's him going to this house where basically the instrument that he's playing has been built into the house. And it very much recalled kind of that same thing that I'm talking about, this pizza place that we had here back in, I think it stayed here through most of the 80s. Definitely added a unique atmosphere to that place when it was here.
Nice. God, those are some decent picks for sure. Some of mine, I really tried to only choose one from all the composers that I was going for. I love that Sidmer called out. I feel a lot of John Williams coming on. I don't know about you. I don't have any John Williams on my list.
No, the closest I would have, and only because this was one that my dad had when I was growing up, would have been Close Encounters.
Yeah, that's a good one. So some of my honorable mentions here. I think, easily the most recent one on here. The only time I think that I ever remember leaving a theater and immediately going, God, I hope that the score is already on Apple Music. Got in my car after watching The Batman last year, came out from a thunderstorm, in a thunderstorm from the theater, put it on, and drove home in a thunderstorm listening to this incredible score. This is Michael Giacchino, and this score is special. Like I really enjoyed The Batman. I think it's great, but it's somehow lesser than its score. The score for this is very driving. It is something that the score itself has stuck with me more than the film has. It is a really, really unique sort of ebb and flow as you go through the entire thing in order specifically. And obviously, any good film should do that. But in many scores, you don't get that because it's played in specific scenes. But when you just go through and listen to this whole score front to back, you get that give and take, that sort of ebb and flow that comes naturally and makes you feel balanced as you're watching and listening to the entire thing. It's an incredible, incredible score. Obviously, I'm a huge John Carpenter fan, and I knew that I was going to have one in my main list, but the Carpenter that I chose for my list isn't all Carpenter. So I figured I better have an honorable mention that's all Carpenter, and obviously I'm going to go with Halloween. Like, everything that he did for this is stupendous. It is one of the most atmospheric soundtrack scores, whatever, ever, and it is done in such a way that is so simple yet so foreboding, and it's so interesting listening back to his feeling on how everybody hated Halloween when he was shopping it around without the music attached to it. But the moment he put that score on, everybody went, "Oh shit, like this is amazing." That gives you the power behind some of the music for these. And then the last honorable mention that I want to shout out is one that does not get enough love. And the only reason it's an honorable mention for me is because scores are all about feeling. And this one, I can't listen to all that often because it is so effective at making me feel tense and amped up. Like, this is the sort of, I'm going to the gym and trying to break a PR, I'm going to put this score on. One Otrix Point Never doing the score for Good Time that came out from the Safdie brothers. This is easily one of the best modern scores in the last 10 years. I think it is a remarkable choice that he made throughout the entire thing. There's a couple soundtrack songs on there, but the score itself is driving. It's electronic when it needs to be. It's moody. It is accelerating in such a way that it's got that Uncut Gems feeling because it's still the Safdie brothers, where you're like, okay, it's about to go down. This is getting crazy. And it is so just emotional when you're listening to it. It is so well done. It is not the best from the last 10 years, but it is one of them. I will save my best from the last 10 years because it's in my list. What's your number 5 for your main list, my friend?
All right, let's see here. Make sure I got these. And one of the things that I wanted, just in case it wasn't made clear when we were doing this, I was focusing on things that I could pull out a vinyl record to go ahead, whether it's just to show off a cool cover, or in the case of a couple of these, I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to go ahead and show off some of the vinyl itself. But this one, I wanted to go ahead and pick. It's a film I've only seen a handful of times, and it's 20 some years it's been out. And I know in recent years when I've shared, I don't know if enthusiasm is really the right word for it, but I guess appreciation for the film itself. It's kind of ruffled some feathers, and I totally 100% understand the sentiment that it is a for a lot of people, it is a one and done type of movie. If it's a movie that someone shows you on date night, it's pretty much a relationship ender unless you have a tremendous conversation afterwards or an intervention of some sort. And that would be from Darren Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream.
Okay.
So one of the things that honestly, and revisiting it today, it's this duo of forces that is set up here. We have Clint Mansell, who had previously worked with Aronofsky on the previous film Pi. He brings in a very industrial, techno side to the score, and very. I like to think of it as a kind of a hip hop element to the score as well, and really brings the grit and the sleaze and just the decay that these characters are working themselves through as the story progresses from season to season. But then you have the Kronos Quartet, which with their strings introduces through the music, I think, the horror element that is a big part of that movie. And it's that back and forth between the two that makes the movie appealing for me, and makes it as disturbing as some of the imagery that is in the film and some of the things that go on within the story. It's the sugar that makes the medicine go down so much easier.
There's a lot of medicine in that film.
Yeah. The thing that is unique with this one, so even if you have just the CD, which I definitely feel like if you can't get the vinyl, the CD is great. But one thing that they do introduce to this as an exclusive is the fourth side, which is basically a remix of some of the score earlier in the. I don't know if that's what Sibner is talking about. Looks like it's just 2 tracks here, and it took me forever. I literally just got it within the last probably 6 months, but there was they were known for techno music back in the 90s, 2000s, but it was a remix collection, CD collection that I finally got a hold of. Wasn't quite the discovery that I was hoping it was going to be. I think the source music is where the best elements of this can be found. But it was I had searched for that particular CD for so long, just finally finding it and finding it for as cheap as I did. It felt like a win in terms of collecting, anyways.
That is a great choice. As soon as you started saying all that, I honestly expected the Fountain to come up. I really enjoy the score for the Fountain.
Yeah, that would be another one that I don't think actually has a vinyl as of yet, and definitely would be worthy of one. Kind of wondering, because I know back in the time it was first released, quite the polarizing title in his filmography. So
still is.
Yeah, I would be curious to see if he would be willing to go there and revisit. I know there's I may even have it where he recorded a commentary, and for some reason Warner Brothers was like, no, we're not going to put this on here. So at some point he just made it available for people to listen to if they wanted to.
Nice. My Sibner says there is a vinyl.
Oh, excellent.
But it's $300 on eBay.
That's the downside.
My number 5 is probably going to surprise some people, because I'm going to say right now, I think it's the best horror soundtrack of all. Not soundtrack. I keep saying that. Horror score of all time. Obviously I love a lot of cult films, love a lot of horror, and the score in a lot of them is great, but a lot of times it's a handful of notes played in a few different ways that is a little atmospheric and foreboding when somebody's walking into a room, and it's a little scary, but it's not something that really sticks with you. It makes you sink in the moment that you hear it when you're watching the film, and that's it. The one I'm going to go with, though, is, I think, the most intricately made score for any horror film. I'm going to have to go with Philip Glass's Candyman. This is one of the most beautiful themes, first of all. The intentional drawing out of the Candyman theme, it is just stupendous. The way that they reused it in the Nia DaCosta version, incredible, really well done. But the original, like the entire score, is a beautiful mix of genres that really floats along the same theme and draws you into just the most compelling and easy listening that you can go through with something like this. And that's, like I said, scores for me are about a feeling, and I can put on the Candyman score and feel hope and also fear, and I can feel happiness and also dread, and I can feel comfort and also just the worst tension. And because of that, it is such an iconic score to put on just when you're trying to have a moment. And I adore every single track in this score. It is so worth it to spend some time with. This may be the one that I listen to probably the second most on my entire list, but the other ones have affected me a little differently. So yeah, this one is big for me.
I had a feeling this discussion was going to make it be a little expensive for me tonight, but I'm glad I'm glad to hear you speak on that. Yeah, that's awesome, and yeah, I'll explain just how much more awesome that is in just a few minutes.
Awesome. Number 4 for you.
Okay, let's see. Okay.
I wish I had props for all of mine. I'm sorry, folks.
I know that giving filmmakers a second shot at something can be frowned upon. Whether we're talking about the special editions of Star Wars, or if we want to get artsy, the recent Wong Kar-wai box set. But this is also actually, let me see here. Yeah, this is my my lone horror score. Not suggesting it's my all-time favorite. I can't go that while I do love this a lot, I can't go that far with it. However, it is, if for no other reason, the last 2 times I got to I've gotten to see this movie 3 times on the big screen. But it's the last 2 times that makes me want to highlight this particular score and this particular version, and that is Joe LaDuca's reworking of the Evil Dead score.
Okay.
And I know everybody in here probably has 27 different versions of the Evil Dead movies. I get it. I got my own stack of them. And some of them I have a VHS. It will probably go with me when it's all said and done. That said, what he was able to do here with this score reminds us of a very simple thing when it comes to low budget films, and that is a great score can go a long way to brushing away shortcomings that would be otherwise more apparent. And while the original score was good, seeing this, and they still play it whenever you hear Grindhouse releasing advertised screening of Evil Dead, it is with this score and not the original 82 score that he did. It's not something so radical that he doesn't make it change genre or anything like that. He just, from the years of doing orchestrations and scores, he just takes all that in and bumps it up. And I can still remember I drove, I think it was like 2.5 hours to Daytona Beach to see it the first time. and I played this on the way back and got lost for a few minutes, and it made the score it just dug in a little bit more on me for that ride back home. So yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. Unfortunately, I feel like out of all the ones I'm going to mention, this is probably the hardest one to get a hold of at this point. And I really wish that would change, whether it's another vinyl release, somehow sort something out to where this can be made available so you don't have to necessarily go see it at the theater, although I recommend it. There's something.
I would be remiss if we didn't mention and so before I say my number 4, I'm going to go into this real quick. All of the companies that we support nowadays. So obviously you've got the big ones. TerraVision has been on here before. Mondo has done a lot with vinyl over the last handful of years, and their vinyl department is no more. The Death Waltz Records does a lot nowadays. Oh geez, that is a great color palette. The big one for a lot of people that are into horror vinyl lately is Waxwork Records. I did want to highlight them for a second because tomorrow at, I believe, 11 a.m. Eastern, they're releasing the vinyl for Evil Dead Rise. So if you want to stay on top of some of these things, this movie is getting pretty rave reviews across the board, and you may love it and want that in your collection. So you may keep an eye out for that tomorrow. Any other major vinyl companies that you want to shout out?
Not necessarily for scores. I'll definitely want to mention, if we have time here at the end, I'll go ahead to kind of tie into the day itself. I wanted to go ahead and show off one extra title and show some appreciation for a favorite label of mine.
I'm posting that link that Sibner just emailed to me. This is for the cover of the Fountain vinyl. I gotta admit, it's pretty dang sweet. It's really well made. I can see it being very expensive though. Lots of good companies putting out vinyl nowadays. One that I somehow just forgot, but La La Land Records, super important. Yeah. And then the other one that we kind of shit on for the Blu-ray side, Enjoy the Ride Records actually does a lot in vinyl, and they are fairly inexpensive, and they have new drops every Friday. So I would keep an eye out on some of those if you're looking out for vinyl releases. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is the big one. Okay, all of mine are big ones. I should stop saying that. Number 4 is probably the biggest composer on my list, though, and that is the intimidating Ennio Morricone. And I had to put one, and this was damn near impossible to label which one I was going to throw on here. And it's hard when you have so many iconic scores that there is a chance that you have 30 people in a room and all 30 have different opinions on which one is the best. And one that is from a film that's been out of print, as I think everywhere, but in the US especially, for years. I'm going to have to go with Once Upon a Time in America. The score for this movie is something that does not get enough love. Like I said earlier, I mentioned jazz. Jazz is hugely important to me. And one of the things that this score has a few flares of is that whole New Orleans feel, the dirge, the feeling of walking down the road and seeing a band playing on the corner, and you just have to stop and listen because they're so compelling. The music in this it's powerful, and that's one thing that Morricone always had, and why he got paid so well to do this for so many gigantic films. Once Upon a Time in America, for anybody that has never seen it, is so well made, and one of the things that really lights it up for me is the score. And it's a long film, and this is one thing that really holds it together, because without this score, I don't think it would have been quite as impactful. I love this, and I love this movie. It is it is a travesty that we don't have a good high def release of this movie out and available right now. I don't understand it, and I hope we get a 4K soon. That's all I got for you.
I'm not going to go ahead and shuffle through the papers to figure out which one, but since you brought Morricone up, one of the scores that is going to be available this weekend, again, can't remember the name, which movie, but one's going to be out for Record Store Day. And he's a pretty good mainstay, good for one or two of those to pop up each year, whether it's in this main Record Store Day or Black Friday.
Yeah, he's done all right over his career, I guess.
Yeah, has a few classics in there.
All right, number 3, my friend.
All right, so when we were putting our list together, I felt pretty confident that we were going to not have the same. I don't think either of us was going to have the same movie score. I kind of said to myself, though, I think we're going to have 10 different composers here. I was wrong. Because, and this was, I want to say, from 2 Record Store Days ago, maybe longer at this point, in the last few years being a blur and everything. So this was one I got from Record Store Day. I'm having the opportunity to listen to it now away from the movie. I'm really impressed at how well it stands on its own, because if you love this movie, it's almost impossible to ignore the music. I mean, because it's so front and center in it. And this, I can remember seeing the VHS box of it. Didn't see it until I was in college, but could remember, I think it was, I actually, before tonight, had it in my head that it was more than just Francis Ford Coppola that was involved with it as a executive producer. I thought Lucas was somehow involved as well, but I think everything I read up on, I was mistaken. When we showed this at my college, they went out of their way to bring in extra like PA speakers so that we could get the full effect of the score. And I saw it then, and eventually saw it some years later, and then got the Criterion box, and have vowed at some point to get beyond this first movie, but I haven't, and that is Koyaanisqatsi from Philip Glass.
Wow.
I got to see this again over at the here we go. Over at the Tampa Theater a few years back, and it just floored me all over again. And that was before they put out this this particular actually. And the funny thing about it was you were talking before about how Record Store Day ends up bringing these different titles out on vinyl for the first time. While this may have been out on vinyl previously, it was not the complete score. So I think several of the songs were shortened or just simply not there. The grid is the whole third side of this record. And it's just one of those. There's something that's so simple and beautiful about the composition that's curious to see here.
Sibner says, I've now twice found signed Philip Glass CDs of the Hours while shopping secondhand, both of them for $1.
Wow. Maybe that was some promotion went wrong.
Only signed 412,000 of them.
It just seems an odd thing for that. There has to be a story behind that. But there is just something so simple about the way he composes. And you take that song, that composition, The Grid, it's 20 minutes. But if you isolate the part that is unique, it's just like this short segments of it. They're just repeated over and over and over and over again, which works great for the film. And just there's just something about, and it's something that I think I need to explore further in terms of in terms of that particular type of classical music, because there's something to it that I haven't quite gotten my hands around. And again, while I'm impressed how well it works as just a listening experience, it's hard to separate from that movie itself. It's and the fact that Awaken got that announcement earlier today, and I was literally listening to the score when that announcement came, and I was like, if you believe in like weird signs, like, sure, okay, I need to go get this now. Finally, fine. You twisted my arm.
Perfect. It seems like in the chat, Sibner's the only one that cares about scores, but we've got an interesting list so far. I'm really happy with these. Kind of shocked that we've both picked Philip Glass, but I'm glad. This next one is probably only going to be me, because this is a very mainstream pick, and this is very, like, probably quite a bit off brand for me. But I just gotta kind of hand it to the two of them. This is one of the best scores of the last 20 years. I still think it's not the best, because my number two I think is the best. But this one, I'm gonna have to go with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for The Social Network. Again, it's very mainstream, and that usually isn't the way I lean. But this entire score is just perfect. And when you think about it, for a movie about the founding of Facebook, if it had a boring score, this movie would have been fucked. The score for this movie is incredible. And when we're watching this movie, and it has some of the most eloquently written, fully David Fincher dialogue, it goes into these depths that it needs, these striking musical moments. And the way that they deliver on this score, it just over and over again, it constantly comes through. I immediately bought this one, I think on CD and vinyl, back when it first came out. And this is one of those CDs that lived in my car, because it is incredible driving music. I'm not usually one to even drive that much anymore, but this is one that it's great for reading. It is great for putting on and doing stuff around the house. It is great for those moments when you need a break from life, because again, you can be all in your feelings. I completely love this. Sibner's throwing out the score for Mank. I'm a terrible Fincher fan, because I've still not seen Mank. I don't know why I'm making myself wait, but I'm eager to see what he's got coming out this fall. I love this score. I don't love everything else from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I liked Nine Inch Nails plenty back in the day, but I think that Reznor is really on top of his game with the stuff that he's done for scores.
Yeah, one that if we were just with the rules that I set in on this, there was no way it was ever going to make it. But as I was going through my CDs, I saw the one for Natural Born Killers.
Ah, yeah, that's a good one.
And now to think about that and where he has progressed since then, I don't think anybody had it on their card that was going to happen. No. And it's all the more impressive, I think.
Completely agree. All right, my friend. We're on top 2 territory.
All right, so this one, different kind of documentary that we're going to for this one. One about a movie about a movie, or more accurately, a movie that never was. And this soundtrack shouldn't be what it is, because I mean, documentaries, I mean, obviously, by the last example by itself, let's see.
Travis says he still hasn't seen Once Upon a Time in America. You got to see it, my friend.
So obviously, a documentary having a tremendous score has its place. Obviously, this last one speaks to that. But the fact that this serves not only as a score to a documentary, but also a score. It could have been even though it wasn't the artists who were supposed to originally score this film. It could have been the score for this movie, and that's Jodorowsky's Dune. I don't know. I know that this is still more. This is widely available as a vinyl record. I don't know if all the editions include this poster. They have. This is one that went up pretty much the day I got it and hasn't come down since. There's just something about this that just.
That's nice.
It's futuristic in a way that you don't. I don't feel like I see this enough in visions of the future, for better or for worse. This is one of the ones that I wanted to attempt to show off. They have very different variations when they do the releases on this one, and I don't know how well that's showing up, but that's
decent. Yeah,
that's one, and then let me go ahead and.
Wow.
So all of them kind of a different sort of splatter effect there. And it's having Jodorowsky's voice bookend the score gives it maybe a little bit of a biographical element to it that maybe brings it back to working as a score for the documentary. Yeah. But the fact that they had the sense to go ahead and score it to the storyboards that had been put together and been sitting for all those years, definitely helped enhance that documentary. And the score on itself, it's one that you can just get lost in a way of like a lot of good prog rock music from the period that film would have been made in.
All right. So my number two is a fairly recent discovery for me. I think I saw the film for the first time. Oh gosh. I'm gonna say about a year and a half ago, maybe a little more. And this score immediately captured me. Like I've alluded to, I think that this is the best score of the last 10 years by a long shot. I think, obviously this is for my taste. A lot of people are going to think that this is terrible, but I am huge on jazz when it's well done and done in a way that is whimsical, I guess, and not in like a pretentious old-timey jazzy whimsical way, but in more of like an adventurous whimsical. And it helped elevate the themes in this movie so much that I fell in love with this movie. And obviously nowadays we we've got a little bit of an issue because the film itself is great, but as somebody in it, that's now a little problematic as of the last couple months. I am stoked to try to give a little more attention to a composer that has been doing some stuff for A24, which I know that's full of pretension and all that stuff, but his name is Emil Masri. And one of his other scores, actually, I also really love, and that is for the movie Minari. I think he did great for Minari, but I think his breakout film for composing is still his best film for composing, in my opinion, and that is The Last Black Man in San Francisco. So the film itself is very good. I said it's got somebody problematic. Jonathan Majors is in it. He beat up multiple people. He's a piece of shit. I get it. Either way, the story is just it is a film all about race and yet not about race at all. And it's not one of those ones that is exploiting on like white guilt or anything like that. So it's nice to see a film like this be successful on the acting front, on the plot front, on the score front, and on top of all that, have incredible for performances from literally everybody in the movie. The score for this movie is bouncy. It is profound. It is incredibly engaging. It is playful when it needs to be. It is this unique blend of like San Francisco and New Orleans a little bit, and it's just this wonderful atmosphere that is the best possible soundtrack to your life, no matter what you're doing. It has been like the magic I've needed. I've listened to this score far too many times in the last year and a half. It is just a gift in my life that I will continue to go back to because it is incredible. And Emil Masri, I don't know how he does it, but some of the stuff that he's done, like singular tracks on a couple of his other scores, are brilliant, but nothing as an entire package has come even remotely close to The Last Black Man in San Francisco. This movie is amazing, but the score itself, even if you're not interested in seeing a movie like this, put on the score, go for a walk, go for a drive, clean the kitchen. No matter what you're doing, this is going to make you have a good time and make you think and feel and be engaged with music in an entirely new way. I love this score.
I feel like my number one's going to be a real downer then.
Mine too, a little bit.
This one, I can't. The fact that it's done by an artist who's probably known more for his pop music makes it perhaps easy to discount as a proper score. But it's one that when I was putting this together, this hit number one almost instantly. And if we were doing like let me go ahead and pull all my film scores in, this one would, even without the constraints here tonight, would still rank pretty high. It was one that I bought on cassette even before I saw the movie. The movie ended up being a huge controversy. Probably never would have played here locally in the first place, but the fact that it was out there and the firestorm of controversy, I still have the newspaper articles going back from when the director was having to defend the film, and just the whole, so much so they went, when it came time to actually release let me go ahead and I want to sneak. Yeah. If you look at it, there's no direct reference to the actual title of the movie. They wanted the score to go ahead and stand on its own, but When I finally did see the movie, it's one that I'm beyond overdue for a rewatch. It actually made me reconsider reconsider my spirituality at that point in my life. And my parents were very cool about how they approached religion. They didn't force it on me like I know a lot of parents of my generation did. And this movie initially pushed me towards it. And what happened, without going into a much more extended story of it, it didn't go well. It was just a very quick, brief hit and run experience with it, and it's something it soured me on organized religion in pretty much any and all forms in one fell swoop. But looking at it in the scope of the director's career since, clearly he was looking to explore different sides, different religions around the world. And this was the first of 2, maybe 3 films that he did to explore it. This would be Peter Gabriel's Passion, otherwise Martin Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ. I again bought it on cassette, got it on CD back in the day. I used to work when I worked at a movie theater, worked Sunday mornings. This would be one that would almost, I don't know if it was my way of trying to be respectful of what was going on outside the office doors when I was there, or it was my kind of polite middle finger to the whole thing or not. But that kept this score in my life. And listening, this one, I keep in pretty frequent rotation, but a lot of way I listen to a lot of music at this point is I'll throw a bunch of albums together and just hit shuffle and go. But today I went and revisited this from front to back. And even if you've never seen the movie, it just has such a epic scope to it. And it fuses Peter Gabriel's progressive rock sensibilities with his fascination with world music. Hassan Ramsey, Nusrat Ali Khan, Youssou N'Dour, they all make appearances on this record. And what became what was his exploration of world music got me interested into music from other cultures. Something I tried to wedge into this, but absolutely couldn't, was Brazilian music, bossa nova music, with the soundtrack score of Next Stop Wonderland and Happy Together and Black Orpheus. Just thinking of a few examples of scores that incorporate Brazilian music. But yeah, this record was a real eye-opening experience, and considering that it followed up the biggest record in Peter Gabriel's career, and still at this point, he really took a chance here. This was not something that commercially made sense for him to do, but this ended up being his follow-up to the record that introduced us all to Sledgehammer. And that record was huge to me in ways that I won't go into tonight, but this one just, piled right on top of it. And it's, as the record would, double LP, it's just epic. And while you go ahead and go into your number one, I'll go ahead and I wanted to pull one bit of this out as well. But
Sure.
I'll let you go ahead and get started on that. So I'll stop talking.
Well, like I said, my number one is probably going to be a bit of a letdown after a couple of the ones that I can just gush over. This next one is probably one of the most iconic, other than that Candyman score. This one, like I said beforehand, I had to do something from John Carpenter, and this one is one of his collaborations. This is the only Carpenter score that I will be getting ready for work and suddenly find myself humming, and I haven't heard the score in 3 months, and I don't know why. I feel like it is the score with the theme that buries itself in your head more than any of the other Carpenter scores, even more than Halloween. And I'm gonna have to go with the absolute classic, Assault on Precinct 13. He worked on this one with Alan Howarth, and it is this perfect synth-driven, like it's a pure Western soundtrack at heart, just like the film itself is, and it's done in such this like they're attacking at night sort of score, and obviously there's this movie is pretty damn salacious in a couple scenes. I mean, a little girl getting shot in the first 3 minutes is not something that you expect from a movie like this, and the score itself, it fits every single scene perfectly. It fits the characters, it fits the tone, it fits the loneliness of being in this building at night when you're vulnerable. It is this siege film that you are stuck in, and the score itself gets stuck in you. Because man, I again, I will find myself singing this, and I haven't seen the movie or heard the score in months, and I'm like, what the hell is Assault on Precinct 13 in my head for? But I love it. Like, this thing has been with me for so long. I think the very first time I saw this, it was the only thing from the film that stuck with me, and I don't know why. The first time I saw this, it was on some crappy CRT TV, like most people, and it just didn't work for me. But then a handful of years ago, I got to see this on the big screen. I went to this film expecting to not love it, and left that night going, that may have been the best of the 3 Carpenter films that I saw on the big screen that night, and just fell in love with this newfound respect for Assault that I didn't even know existed. And now I'm desperate that hopefully we get that 4K restoration on disc that Deaf Crocodile did, because I need to have the score stuck in my head for all time, I guess.
At that one, I know that score was vinyl, CD, pretty widely available there for a minute, yeah. But I don't know if it still is.
Yeah, that thing was everywhere.
And one of the things that threw me off as I was wrapping up my discussion, I had forgotten, because the way they put this record together, it wasn't just a double LP, it was triple, and the fifth, they etched the sixth side here.
Nice. Yeah.
So
crazy. Sibner says no one clipped that soundbite. What did I say accidentally? I missed it. Man, these two lists, I'm gonna run through mine again, and Terry can run through his again. I just want everybody to hear these, just in case you were trying to catch up or Stan came in late, just so Stan can hear the whole list. We are going over 5 of our favorite iconic scores. My number 5 was Candyman from Philip Glass. My number 4 was Once Upon a Time in America from, of course, Ennio Morricone. Oh, my newfound love of Assault. Yeah, that makes sense. My number 3 was The Social Network with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. My number 2, which may actually be my number 1 if the other one wasn't such an earworm for me, The Last Black Man in San Francisco from Emil Masri. And my number 1, Assault on Precinct 13 with Alan Howarth and John Carpenter. Again, if you are somebody that has not ever paid super close attention to scores or given the time and attention to some of these composers that maybe you could, this is one area to challenge yourself in. It is It is somehow like extremely rewarding to discover some of these and make them an important part of your film discovery, of your film appreciation. And I will always advocate for giving extra love and attention to musicians. Terry, you want to share your 5 again?
Yeah, let me go ahead and get them back up here. I don't think I'm going to do the show and tell, but just so I don't make sure I don't forget here. All right, so can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so my number 5 was Clint Mansell with featuring the Kronos Quartet, the score for Requiem for a Dream. Number 4 was the reworked edition from Joseph LaDuca, doing the original 82 Evil Dead. Number 3 was Philip Glass's Koyaanisqatsi. Number 2 was Kurt Stenzel doing the score for another documentary, Jodorowsky's Dune. And then finally, number 1 was Peter Gabriel doing the score for Martin Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ, otherwise released as Passion, which was apparently the working title of the film when it was in production.
Then Mel Gibson stole it. I mean, I'm honestly a little shocked that if you would have told us beforehand we were going to have one match, I probably would have picked almost any of mine other than Philip Glass.
Yeah, and it's weird because with Philip Glass, that score was something that always stayed with me from the first time that I'd seen the movie. But other than some other, because we had film projectionists there at the college who 1 or 2 of them were really into Philip Glass. So I think I heard like Einstein on the Beach back then, but he wasn't a composer that really stayed with me other than the one score.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, he's done. God, there's a few that he's done. Like, was it something in the 2000s that was really good as well? God, I'm gonna kick myself for this afterwards. I can't remember what it was. Let me. I'm pulling up his things now. Definitely not The Illusionist. Secret Window was actually pretty good. Huh. I can't remember what I'm thinking of. Maybe it was early 2010s. He's done a lot of stuff over the years, but the stuff that he was a main composer on, like, he's not done a whole lot of others. Like The Thin Blue Line, he was great. Hamburger Hill, he was great. Mishima, of course. Yeah, Mishima was easily one of the best ones. Yeah, Philip Glass is. Yeah, The Hours is a big one, of course. Oh man, look at that. Stan says, got to see Glass play the score live, accompanying a screening of the film at Royce Hall at UCLA. Good Lord. Good gosh, Stan.
And I see Sibner making reference to Kundun, which was one of Scorsese's other explorations of religion. So,
well, this was a lot of fun. I know that this was a little bit of a deviation for the channel, focusing on music, but I hope somebody got something out of this. Again, reminder: it is Record Store Day this weekend. I had, I think it was 2 people today messaged me before I posted the stream asking if we were going to be doing stoner films. So many people disappointed that I'm not talking about stoner films tonight. And I get that. It's probably not going to be 420 on a Thursday night for multiple years, but unfortunately.
To that end, though, if this will sort of tie into the last mention I wanted to make, and that is a label, the Numero Group out of Chicago. They do a lot of, now thinking back on my discovery of that label, and then later discovering Vinegar Syndrome, I feel in their, even though they are operating from two different medium. They have a very similar sensibility of just wanting to bring out things that maybe didn't get their proper due in their time. And that's something that Numero does for music. And while they themselves are highly critical of Record Store Day, as a number of select labels out there are, I totally respect that. But I mean, the fact that, we're going to have potentially a lot of Taylor Swift fans discover Record Store Day come Saturday just because of a release, I don't frown on that. I mean, if it's one and done, they don't come back, great. They at least got to have their experience of it. I feel like this is something at its best should be experienced at least once if you're a music fan. But if they see something while they're there and it gets them to explore, whether it's another type of music or even just another even if it's just another pop artist, it gets them to come back to that store next week, next month, whatever. I feel that's a win for stores and
100%
and everybody else. But I wanted to go ahead and try, because I had this, and it seemed appropriate with the fact that tonight was 420. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the lights out here, and we'll go ahead and just show this particular piece of artwork off, and we can go from there. So give me just a moment.
Terry's going all out for the theatrics. I love that we can see the tie-dye only. That's very 420. Oh, dang. Very nice.
How's that?
Maybe back the light up a little bit.
I knew I was going to try to do this without the ears, and it was going to become a problem.
Back the light up a little bit when you're shining it on there.
Maybe we'll like that.
That's pretty damn bright. Jeez.
Yeah, as far as I know, this is one of the only record covers that I've seen that uses this black light. And considering it's a collection of old acid rock recordings from the 60s and 70s, couldn't think of a more appropriate combination. This insight could show up a little better, even though on the surface it's a little more plain Jane. Comparison.
Unfortunately, that doesn't show very well.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. Yeah, I wish it would be something that could show off better in person. Or
I mean, the colors alone are incredible.
Get accustomed to showing things off on the camera with time.
Love it. This, like I said, this has been super cool. I'm a huge fan of film scores, and anybody that is supporting physical media in any way is somebody that I will be happy to support as well. Terry, you do great for music. I'm so glad that you're here. So glad that you're part of our Discord, this community. You guys are amazing. Thank you all sincerely. This has been a fun night.
Glad to be here, and glad you enjoyed my company tonight.
Absolutely. Speaking of the Discord, it's the week of our monthly watch along. If you are so inclined, this would be the perfect time to join and get to vote before we watch something on Sunday. It looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting choice, and the streak continues. I think that every single time I post up one of these polls, I have allowed my wife the ability to vote on my behalf, and she has never picked the winning title. And the one that she picked this time is behind yet again. But I'm stoked that we get to watch what is most likely going to be the winning title at the moment. So, yeah.
It's a very interesting list. If anybody who is going to be there Sunday hasn't voted yet, by all means, get in there, because this was probably one of the hardest picks that I've had.
Good to know. All right, everybody. Please come back next week, and we'll have you on for a good show. Other than that, have a good night, and Terry, hopefully we can do this again.
Love to.
See you, everybody. Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share with someone else that may appreciate this.